Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom, and today we're going to continue to talk about the incredible Inca, the Inca Empire, the Inca civilization of South America. Of course, as you know, the Americas were conquered pretty much by Europeans, and before the Europeans came to North and South America, there were various civilizations already there. We refer to them as the Indians, the native peoples there, the Aborigines, etc. And we're focusing on one major civilization in South America that was conquered by the Spanish, and those are the Inca, who were mostly hanging out in Bolivia and Peru.
Hanging out. Okay, well, we talked about their civilization, how amazing it was, although they didn't have horses or wheeled vehicles. So they lived a different way. Some of it's a mystery to us because we don't have a lot of records, and they were totally extinguished, you could say, quite a long time ago. I'm sure there are people in that area that have Inca blood, but we no longer have the Inca with us. So we talked about how they actually spread out over a really big area. But when the Spanish came, they brought with them that nasty disease called smallpox. And smallpox was very deadly. It still is, actually. But today we have vaccinations. We get shots when we're babies so we can fight smallpox. But that smallpox killed the Inca, at least 60% of them at that time. And then over time, the rest of them were wiped out. So it's kind of sad. We do have the ruins that are left behind. And if you want to see what they live like, at least a little bit of a picture, you should plan a trip to Machu Picchu, which is cool.
And indeed, there are all sorts of ruins in the Americas that you could check out besides Machu Picchu. Of course, there are the Mayan ruins in Central America. I think in Bolivia, there's another Inca set of ruins called Pumapunku or something like that, with some incredible structures there. But, of course, that's on flat lands. Anybody can go there. But it's only the really hardy, really sturdy, kind of strong macho people that can make that trek through the mountains and get to Machu Picchu and tell all your friends that you were there.
Yeah.
So we did talk about trekking to Machu Picchu, but we're also talking about the history of the Inca and how Francisco Pizarro got the permission from the Queen of Spain to conquer them to get the gold and silver. And with only 168 soldiers, they brought the Incas to their knees. But their legacy continues on. And let's talk some more about the Inca Empire right now. Everybody, let's read the entire contents of our lesson one time.
In many ways, the Inca Empire was unique. It had no access to iron, steel, horses, or wheeled vehicles, yet it had a remarkably sophisticated system of agriculture. The use of stone terraces prevented soil erosion and allowed the Inca to maximize land use, while also creating small but stable microclimates that kept soil moist and plants' roots warm. They grew potatoes, maize, and other crops that could survive at high altitudes, and herded llamas and alpacas for their meat and wool. Another thing the Inca didn't have was a written language. They used knotted strings called quipu for counting, with different knots and spaces representing ones, tens, hundreds, and so on. Information might have been recorded in knot form too, though researchers have been unable to decode it. Other Inca records took the form of decorated ceramic pots, which portrayed everyday life or scenes from battles. Some of the most impressive achievements of the Inca are found in their architecture. The stones that make up buildings and monuments of Machu Picchu, for example, are not held together with mortar, yet fit together so well that one cannot insert a knife blade between them. These structures have also withstood the effects of time. The Incas' extensive system of roads also survives to this day, and like Machu Picchu, has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There's much more to learn about the history, culture, and accomplishments of the Inca Empire. One of the best ways to see it for yourself is to take the Inca Trail, a 5-day hike past numerous ruins that terminates at Machu Picchu. It's limited to 200 visitors a day, and permits sell out quickly. But those who've walked the trail believe it's worth the effort.
Okay, everybody, let us introduce the incredible Inca to you today, or at least continue to introduce them to you. And let's talk about the Inca Empire. In many ways, the Inca Empire was unique. It was special. It was one of a kind. It had no access to iron, steel, horses, or wheeled vehicles, yet it had a remarkably sophisticated system of agriculture. So we're talking about the empire here. That's a single noun, so it here refers to the empire itself. It had no access to iron, which of course is an element that you can treat in certain ways with other chemicals. I suppose you heat it up and then you make things into steel.
It's a metal.
A metal, it's an iron. And then also you can make that into steel, which is the next thing here that you would use to make vehicles or buildings or whatever, skyscrapers. Also, they had no access to horses, which, of course, are animals we all know and love here. But, hey, horses can do a lot of work for you, but if you don't have horses, you got to use something else or you got to do it yourself. And they did not have wheeled vehicles, no carts, no Ferraris or anything like that. So how the heck were they able to build Machu Picchu in the mountains with all those things? Yet, still, without those things, it had a remarkably sophisticated system of agriculture. Now here, remarkably is an adverb. It means it's something that is worthy of attention. It is striking. It is notable. It's remarkable. But here, remarkably is an adverb because they had a remarkably sophisticated system of agriculture. They could plant trees and bushes and plants and stuff like that really successfully, but they still didn't have those other kinds of technology.
Yeah, they had a lot of great crops they were raising. They used something called stone terraces, and that prevented the dirt or soil from eroding or just leaking down, away from things. I think we use terraces here, though, too. It's a series of flat areas that are made on a slope. The slope goes up the mountain. It's angled, and it goes from low to high. So they actually would farm that way, too. So it prevented soil erosion. If something erodes, it just disappears over time, perhaps from rain, weather, the elements outside. Things can erode. Erosion is the noun form. And this allowed the Inca, because they were able to use stone terraces, to maximize land use. If you maximize something, you get the most out of it that you possibly can. Maybe you don't have a lot of a particular ingredient at home and you try to maximize it. You use as little of it as possible so it lasts longer. They did that while also creating small but stable microclimates that kept soil moist and plants' roots warm. If something's stable, it doesn't change. It remains the same over a long period of time. Most of us are looking for stable work, so you don't have to keep trying to find a new job. The job that you have is stable, which means you're sure that it's going to be there in 10 years. So they had stable microclimates, and those were able to keep the soil moist, which is kind of wet, not completely wet, just has some of that moisture in it, and the plant's roots warm. Remember, they were kind of in a cold area for winter because the altitude was quite high.
Right, so they were able to create those microclimates, which are kind of areas of weather that are specific to that area. Sometimes people say, oh, there are microclimates in Taipei. It could be raining in one part of the city and then dry and sunny in another part of the city. That's kind of an example of a microclimate. I guess they were able to do this by using those stone terraces. They prevented soil erosion so they could use the land as much as they could. This created those stable microclimates. So the soil could be moist with lots of water in there to grow plants, and the roots could be kept warm so that the plant wouldn't die, and they had a stable supply of food as a result. Now they grew potatoes, maize, and other crops that could survive at high altitudes And also they herded llamas and alpacas for their meat and wool. So these are some of the things they grew. Potatoes, maize is corn, basically. And they grew other crops as well. Maybe papaya, which is native to South America. I don't know if the Inca grew that. I'm just kind of guessing here. Maybe, yams or something as well. And also these plants could survive at high altitudes, high in the mountains. We often talk about high-altitude oolong tea. Here in Taiwan, it's quite coveted Gaoshan oolong cha, high-altitude oolong tea. And if you herd animals, that means you gather them together into large groups so that you can use them for whatever purpose. You can get their wool from them. You can kill them and get their meat. They herded llamas and alpacas, which are similar animals. They're members of the camel family, but these are animals that are famous in South America. Alpacas especially for making alpaca sweaters. It's a very soft kind of fabric.
Yeah, I had a friend in New York City that actually, he and his friend bought an alpaca, was raising it in their yard, which was hilarious. They're really cute animals. Yeah, they're usually not domesticated pets, but they were raising the alpaca that they had for wool. They sold it. But anyway, just kind of funny. Another thing the Inca didn't have was a written language. Aha! Now we see why there's a mystery about the civilization. They didn't leave behind their journals and their books and their newspapers for us to take a look at. They use something that's very interesting. They use a knotted springs called quipu for counting. We use different things to count. Nowadays, we all use calculators, but there's the abacus that the Chinese civilization used and still uses today. A lot of Asian countries still use that. To knot something is to take a piece of string and to tie it with itself, and there's a little knot left in it. They use these knotted strings for counting. Different knots and spaces represented different amounts. You could have ones, tens, hundreds like that. So interesting. That's nothing like anything I've heard of before, these knotted strings.
I think I remember hearing about this years ago, but I guess you use these knots for counting called quipu, and you got different knots and spaces which represent ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, etc., hundreds, 100, 200, etc. And information might have been recorded in knot form too, though researchers have been unable to decode it. So yes, indeed, they were able to use knots to represent numbers, but maybe they had letters or something like that too, but nobody can really know that. They have been unable to decode the knots that I guess were unexplainable, I guess. So we'll talk about it in just a couple of seconds. I think it's time to take a break now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny. 今天我们继续来看第5单元。好，我们要继续来讨论印加帝国。谈到印加帝国，当然它有很多方面都跟别人不同。unique 的地方在哪里呢？第一个就是要谈到在那个时代，它竟然没有使用钢铁，没有马匹，没有其他轮式运载工具。这边说 had no access to， 记得这个片语 access 本来就是通道管道，当你说 have access to， 那就是有什么管道，而这边是它的相反词，我们加 no， 没有这种机会来用到钢铁，用到马匹。虽然这一点它没有，但相对的它却有非常精密的农业系统。我们再来往下看，说到它的农业系统，这边有一些解释跟说明，不过他们最重要的就是能够充分的利用土地，同时创造一个小型而稳定的微气候。再来，下面就继续说了，印加人民的伟大，其实在它农作物之外，它还有 herded， 注意到这个字 herd 代表放牧，它有放牧 llamas and alpacas， 这个大羊驼跟羊驼。还有什么他们特别的地方呢？下一段就说了，他们有一点是我们很惊讶的是，他们没有书写语言。如果没有 written language， 那他怎么样沟通呢？在这段就告诉大家，他们用的语言很特别。 它竟然是像我们所谓的结绳记事，是用 knots 来表达意思。我们来看这边，他说到 with different knots and spaces representing ones, tens, hundreds, and so on。 看到了 with 这个介系词，它怎么用？像这边你用 with， 有时候就是表示以什么样的状况，用什么样的方式。这个 with 后面加受词，受词后面会加一个补语，而这个补语呢是受词补语，所以有时候你就会看到是一个修饰受词用的 VING， 表示主动语态。而如果看到被动，就会看到 PP。 以这边来看到，我们说 with 后面的 different knots and spaces 接的是一个 representing， 它是一个主动语态的 VING 现在分词。换句话说，它是用什么样的方式呢？不同的节，不同的间隔来表达数字。我们谈到印加人真的十分的特殊，那只是我们研究人员到目前为止还没办法去解读他们所有这些结绳代表的意义。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're on day 2 of our culture unit. We're looking at the incredible Inca. Today, we're focusing in particular on, how they grew their crops, what they ate to stay alive, if they had any way to communicate and what that was. So we talked about how their system of agriculture was very sophisticated, very complicated, you could say. They used stone terraces, and that helped prevent the dirt or the soil from eroding. And they also maximized land use. They didn't have a lot of flat land, and so they did their best to make good use of all the land that was available to them. And they grew a lot of crops. We found out they grew potatoes, maize, which is also a corn. That's what they used to make those tortillas. The yellow tortillas that you can buy, those are corn tortillas. They're made of maize. There's also white maize that you can buy. It's delicious. I don't think I've ever seen maize for sale in Taiwan, but you can buy the corn tortillas at one of my favorite bakeries here called Florida Bakery.
Okay.
But you can buy it online. I've had maize sent to me so I could make fresh tortillas, which are really delicious. Anyway, they have that. And they also were at very high altitudes. If you've been at a very high altitude, you know it's more difficult to breathe up there, but it's quite beautiful. They also use the animals, llamas and alpacas. Check those on the internet. They're adorable. For their meat, so they ate them, and they also used their very soft wool to make some of their sweaters.
Yeah, they didn't have a written language either, but they used knots to represent numbers, and they may have used knots to record information about their history, but researchers have been unable to decode that code. A code, of course, is a secret set of numbers and information. Like during World War II, of course, the Germans had a code, and the British were able to break that code. The Japanese had a code as well, and the Americans were able to break that code as well, although the Japanese could not break the American code because they were actually using the Navajo language.
They were.
What were they called? The Wind Talkers or something like that?
Code Breakers. That was a movie, Wind Talkers.
Yeah, that's what they were called, the Navajo Indians who spoke to each other, and the Japanese just couldn't figure out what the heck are they talking about. They had no idea.
It's supposed to be the hardest language to learn, Navajo.
Yeah, that's, of course, an Indian nation in Arizona. And New Mexico.
We had a Navajo girl live with us for a while, yeah.
Okay.
It's so hard, she couldn't really talk it very well. So they grow up learning English now. But yeah, it's a difficult language. So they couldn't break that code. There may have been words among those knotted strings that we just, can't read because we don't know how to decode them. So they had other Inca records that took the form of decorated ceramic pots. I've heard of this. I think they do this in China too. Some of the old pots that are made out of clay, those are ceramic pots. They have pictures or drawings or designs on them that would mean something. Sometimes they had scenes from everyday life so you could see what life was like for them back then, which is fun. Or they had scenes from battles. You can have a big war. A battle is a smaller part of that war. So you can win the battle and lose the war. That's a very famous saying. Maybe you're fighting with your teenage son or daughter and, you may lose some battles, but ultimately, after they get out of their teenage years, they still love you. So parents win the war.
Interesting. So you've got these ceramic pots with depictions of everyday life, cooking, cleaning and stuff, going to bed, making clothes or whatever, and also scenes from battles. How interesting. Check that out. The ceramic pots probably look pretty cool.
Yeah, to portray just means to, illustrate. You can portray with words or with actual drawings.
Indeed, like cave drawings, for example, portraying everyday life. Here in the next paragraph, it says, some of the most impressive achievements of the Inca are found in their architecture.
Yeah.
So these are impressive achievements. If something's impressive, it makes you admire that person or admire that thing. Oh, the work you did on that project was quite impressive. I'm impressed. You deserve a promotion. So, yes, indeed, this is impressive here. Their achievements in architecture, which just basically means how they built structures and palaces and homes and things like that.
Yeah, it's the style of the building. A building isn't architecture. You can't say, oh, I like that architecture there. You like the architecture of that building, right? So it's the style of the building. Do never put an S on this, please, guys. It's architecture, non-count. The stones that make up buildings and monuments of Machu Picchu, for example, are not held together with mortar or with concrete or with, what's the other word we use for that?
Cement.
Cement, yeah, that like holds two things together, and when it dries, it's just immovable. You can't really do anything with it. They didn't have mortar, so they had to cut the stones so they fit together so perfectly like a puzzle that they're so close together, those two stones, you cannot even take a knife and insert the blade in between the two stones. That's pretty amazing.
Wow, they must have had some pretty good mathematics there.
Yes.
And yes, indeed, if you see brick walls here in Taiwan, of course, the bricks are held together with mortar. And these are quite impressive structures. And these structures have also withstood the effects of time. Withstood here is the past tense of withstand. That means you're able to fight against something and still remain undamaged. Like, of course, a lot of houses can withstand typhoons here in Taiwan. Buildings have to be built to withstand earthquakes, for example.
Right. So the Inca's extensive system of roads also survives to this day. So currently, you can still go and see their road system that they built long, long ago. And like Machu Picchu, the system of roads has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. If you're designated something, it just means that's been assigned to you. Sometimes you're designated a particular name or area, or when you first go to school, your teacher may designate a desk for you. That's where you're going to sit. So the World Heritage Site, to be on that list at least, is very important because UNESCO uses its funds to protect and maintain these very important historical sites for us because it's part of human history.
Yep, it's been designated, it's been recognized, it's been given this distinction.
Yeah.
And there's much more to learn about the history, culture, and accomplishments of the Inca Empire. Yes, we've only just scratched the surface here. There's so much more to learn about the Incas. You can read an article about them in Wikipedia encyclopedia. You can buy several books on them. You can actually go to South America yourself. There are probably lots of museums there. Other cultural sites as well of the Incas. So, of course, if you're interested in that sort of thing, you can learn all about them. It might be interesting to know more about their food, their diet. What kind of food did they eat? And is there such a thing as an Incan restaurant in Peru where you can go have an Inca meal? Who knows? But again, you can learn a lot about their accomplishments. An accomplishment is something that you have done, that you have achieved. It was quite an accomplishment for my cousin Richard to graduate from university. He couldn't study very well, but he worked really hard, and he finally graduated. That was quite an accomplishment for him.
Yeah, so one of the best ways to see this for yourself, see some of that Inca Empire, the ruins at least, is to take a 5-day hike past numerous ruins that terminates at Machu Picchu. If it terminates somewhere, that's where it ends. If you're listening to the subway announcements, you'll hear them say, when you get to, I think, the zoo, they'll say, this is the terminal station. Terminal, there is the adjective for terminate, the verb to end. And that hike, though, is limited to 200 people a day. They're trying to protect it. They don't want too many people up there at a time. And you have to get a permit. Permit is the noun form of the verb permit. Notice there's a different zhongyin there. The syllable, the emphasis is on the second syllable for the verb permit. And permit is the noun. You need a permit in America, at least, to go hunting or fishing, to try to, lower the numbers so people don't kill too many animals or take too many fish at one time. But if you have the guts, you can take that 5-day hike and see Machu Picchu. It's pretty tough, though. But from what we hear and what I've heard from my friend, it's worth it. It's tough, though.
Okay, make your reservations early. And gee, I wonder if you can get a permit to check out that site at Machu Picchu. It would be quite an experience that you can brag about for years. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
我们继续再来看印加文化。那提到结绳记事，提到用结绳来沟通表达含义。那这之外呢，还有一个Other Inca records， 我们看到，当然前面说了1点、2点，那还有别的时候是另外要谈的是，它这种记载方式是采取装饰陶罐的形式。看到这个片语，我们知道take the form of 就是采用什么样的形式，有时候你会把 form 改成 shape， take the shape of 也就是有什么样的外形。那这边提到的形式是用装饰陶罐的形式，说起来就是在陶罐上面，它可能会描绘了当时的日常生活，或者是一些战争的情景。我们从陶罐上的记载、记录或描绘，就可以知道当时人是怎么样过日子了。OK， 我们继续来往下读哦。下面说到，印加文化有一些地方其实令我们印象深刻。这边提到的是它的建筑。好。举例来说，是这 Machu Picchu 它的建筑物和它的遗迹，它的石块当中竟然是没有一点点砂浆去把它结合起来。可是有趣的就是，这些石块却非常的密合，你连一把刀刃都插不进去。想到这里，你就不禁要佩服印加人的厉害了。不过我们来先看一下文法上的结构里头，首先我们要探讨的是 yet。Y-E-T 注意到了，说它没有用砂浆去结合 yet 这个字也是一个前后对照。A 怎么样，不过 B 怎么样，所以 yet 在语气上它当然是前后的转折，有相对性。另外一点，它其实是一个连接词的用法哦。好，那有时候我们看到这个 yet会发现它也是不一定是连接词，它也可能是副词的使用，所以大家要特别注意。好，那在这之后还有写到 so well that， 我们都知道 so blah 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 that 这个 so 后面接一个形容词或者是副词，然后呢 that 表示一个结果是这样的，以至于怎么样。好，刚刚就提到了连一把刀刃都插不进去，这可以见得他们的建筑工法特别之处了。如果大家想去 Machu Picchu， 不妨来参加这边的印加古道践行。这边说到印加古道践行，后面逗点 a 5-day hike， 这个地方后面用到了同位语。记得我们说过，当你有一个比较难懂的名词，你后面呢接着是一个同位语，其实前后是等同，只是进一步解释说明而已。OK， 我们今天的讲解就到这边结束，我们下次见。
That's all for today, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and please join us again next time. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Bye.
Bye.